Another top 5 with Kris 05, boys. The meta right now is pretty stabilized, so in this video I will show you what are the 5 best decks out there, as well as what are all of the other working archetypes for each different class. As always, you can expect an overview, mulligan guide, win rates, and if it's worth crafting, so stick around to the end. It would be awesome if you drop a like and a subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, cause it would really help me. Lately, we haven't been gaining much subscribers, and it's kinda bumming me out, you know? Anyway, not gonna lie, I'm feeling quite lazy today, so let's just jump right into it. So, the first deck on the list has to be Rush Warrior. Rush Warrior has been a strong archetype for quite a while now, but it's really been killing it lately, especially from rank 5 to Legend. I've had insane results with it on my last several coaching sessions, and we've hit Legend quite easily, even from rank 5 to Legend in less than 3 hours, with only 2 losses. So yeah, it is really strong. In the beginning of the season, the Nazat version was pretty good, but as time passed, it kinda became evident that Nazat is a little bit too slow. So that is why I'm showing you a version that's not running it. Same goes for Sourfang, it's kinda cool, and I do like the card, but I feel from rank 5 to Legend, games are just not that slow. So you're probably better off with including some earlier game picks. This version is close to the one I'm using, but honestly, I would cut out the Crab Riders and instead I would slap in a Wormhole Challenger and maybe an extra Frenzy Pirate. But yeah, all in all, the deck is pretty solid. You have a lot of ways to cheat out extra stats, and it's really hard for the opponents to play around you, because basically most of your cards have Rush, which is removal on a stick that leaves a body afterwards. So yeah, it's pretty strong. There are quite a few versions of the deck, and you could even fool around with Mutinous, which also makes a lot of sense, but I don't know, again, feels a little too slow. Anyway, let's pick something with a little more stats so we can see the matchups better. And here they are. Basically, Priest will be the only bad one for you, and everything else is at least 50 or a lot better than that. Control Warrior could be a problem, but I've honestly not seen any Control Warriors lately, so you should be good. Control Warlock can also be problematic, but it's 50-50. For the mulligan, you're always gonna be keeping Imprisoned Ganarg, Bumper Car, Athletic Studies, and in most cases Wormhole Challenger makes sense. When going first, Imprisoned and Bumper Car are gonna be your best bets. And also a lot of the time Stage Dive is a good keep in my book, but make sure to have something with which you can corrupt it relatively early. Parade Leader is an okay card to keep in some matchups, but if you know that the opponent has an easy way to deal free damage to it from hand, you're probably better off chucking it, so you can get something that you can actually stick. When going second, you can keep slower cards. When going second, you can keep slower cards like Watley, and even Conditioning, because you're gonna have more minions. If you're curving into Overlord Runetech, that also makes a lot of sense. But again, Imprisoned Ganarg, Bumper Car, Wormhole Challenger, and Athletic Studies are probably gonna be your best bets. The deck is not cheap, but it's definitely very strong. I'm not sure if they're gonna be nerfing it anytime soon, so it might be a good idea for you to craft it if you can spare all of that dust. As you can see for Warrior, you're either gonna go Rush or probably below 50% win rate. There are some other versions with Taunt and Control, but as you can see, they're all at the bottom of the bunch. So if you want to be winning, you're probably better off with Rush Warrior. You can check out my Rush Warrior guide if you want to see some more information about it, as well as included gameplay. Now let's check out some Token Druid. Token Druid has been a strong archetype for more often than not, and right now it's definitely in the top 5. It is super cheap and it's super effective, and depending on how well you play it, you're gonna be able to steal a lot of wins with it. This is a very standard version with only 1 guidance and 1 Soul of the Forest, but I do see some other lists emerging, including cards like Resizing Pouch, which could give you basically an extra coin. Some people also include Pounce, but all in all, I think this is definitely one of the best versions out there. The main skill test with this deck is knowing how much of a board you can build and how much of a board your opponent can remove, and it's up to you to decide when you really need to be going all in, or when you can wait a few turns and actually build a board that your opponent is just not gonna be able to deal with. Your 2 main game plans are with the 2 Gibberlings and with the 2 Glowfly Swarms, but you can definitely muster other board types with your Adorable Infestation, with your Form Growth Sentries, and also let's not forget a Solar Eclipse into Arbor Up is huge amounts of stats too. And you have your Nature Studies and Guidance so you can figure out other new spells with which you can maybe get more Glowfly Swarms. For the matchups, Aggro Shaman could be a problem for you, especially if they're running the Landslide. Control Priest and Menagerie Priest could also be problematic. And also Miracle Rogue has a lot of removal, but the real problem with Miracle Rogue is that they might be running Cult Neophyte, which basically stops you dead in your tracks. Also with Rush Warrior and Control Warrior it could be a problem, but honestly I do believe Rush Warrior should be a favorable matchup for you, at least in higher Legend. For the mulligan, when you're going first, you're always gonna want to get your Fungal Fortunes and guess the weight. If you already have one one of those, you can also keep Glowfly Swarm, but if you don't have the card draw, I think it's not such a great idea to keep Glowfly. Nature Studies is also pretty cool, especially if you can find an extra card draw, and you can even muster some Gibberling hands as well. But I think for that to work, you have to have a pretty perfect hand, including a Lightning Bloom and some card draw to go with it. When going second, the game's gonna be a lot easier for you, because this way you got an extra card and also an extra coin. So that is a grand total of 2 extra cards that are really important for the way you play your deck. In this case, Gibberling becomes your best keep, because you can literally flood the entire board as soon as turn 1 if you get a little lucky with a Lightning Bloom, Power of the Wild, and maybe Arbor Up for instance. In which case, you can really pop off as soon as turn 1. Glowfly Swarm becomes a lot more keepable too, even if you don't have the card draw, and also Fungal Fortunes is still pretty top tier. When going second, you don't really want to be keeping Guess the Weight, especially if you already have Fungal Fortunes, because if that's the case, you're probably not going to be able to even Fungal Fortunes on free without burning cards. Nature Studies is still an okay keep, I think. All in all, the deck is pretty strong, pretty cheap, and pretty effective, so it's definitely worth the craft for you. Other versions for Druid right now would be Primordial Druid at the top, and there's also this new Malagos Druid that Jambray's been tinkering with, and let's not forget the Miracle Katoon version, which is not doing too great, because it has a very high skill cap. So yeah, for Druid, it's either Primordial or Token. Next up, here's Elemental Shaman. This is a very heavy elemental version, which has a lot of board presence. But you also have a bunch of reach with it too. The weapons you run here would be your Whack-A-Null Hammer, which really helps you sticking those good elementals. We also have Instructor Fireheart, so you can find a bunch of different spells, and we also have Inara Storm Crash, which can be a really strong way of you to dealing with the board and also inflicting a little bit of extra damage while putting a very high priority target on the board. The matchups for this deck are overall pretty green, with only Rush Warrior being a problem, because like I said, you're a board-centric deck, and Rush Warrior really loves to clear board-centric decks. The good news is everything else is at least 50% or above, including against priests, which is pretty awesome. For the Mulligan Guide, when you're going first, you're gonna want your good 1-drop elementals, as well as your Cage Master Custodian, Arid Stormer, Menacing Nimbus, and I do believe you would like to get your Primal Dungeoneer, because it's a lot of card draw. The deck runs only nature spells, so this is always gonna be drawing you 2 cards as long as you have one of each in your deck. When on the coin, you still want to get your good 1-drops, and if you didn't get your Custodian, you could even keep a Whack-A-Null Hammer. Arid Stormer is still pretty good, and if you're curving into it, you can even keep a Lilypad Lurker, because you can coin it out as soon as turn 4 and really screw up your opponent's game plan. Earth Revenant is gonna be pretty strong, especially against aggro-type decks. And also Serpentshire Strong can help you out a lot. Primal Dungeoneer, still pretty top tier in my book. There are a ton of other versions for Elemental Shaman right now, some of which even include Alexstrasza, but it's up to you to decide which game style fits you the most. The deck is definitely very strong and definitely very worth. And I don't believe that Blizzard will smack down Shaman right after they revive the man. Other than that, Aggro Shaman is also pretty strong with the Doomhammer version, and there are Elemental Shamans with the Doomhammer as well. But all in all, it's either aggro or elemental right now for Shaman. Next up, let's check out Deathrattle Demon Hunter again, which is still pretty much at the top. This version of Deathrattle Demon Hunter is a lot more offensive, and it's running the Fellsteel Executioner, which is basically 12 damage on a stick, which also enables you to have a very high durability weapon for your early Illidari Inquisitors, which you can cheat out with your Raging Fellscreamer. There's also Mankrik in this version, and you also have Nazat, but I actually believe that the Nazatless version is gonna be better for you, because it's gonna make your win condition happen a lot faster. Nazat is cool and all, but I feel it's kinda slow in this meta, and I would definitely swap out Nazat for maybe an extra Raging Fellscreamer, and this is not only gonna make your Inquisitors faster, but you're also gonna be able to draw actual Inquisitors with your Teal Forging all of the time. Even though Nazat is cool and all, you don't exactly want to get Nazat before the Illidari Inquisitors. So this way you basically guarantee the early Inquisitor. We also have the Death Speaker, and you also have Fishy Flyer, so you can have a lot more removal in the early game. For the matchups, Druids are not gonna be your friend, and Face Hunter is a little bit too fast most of the time too. But in my experience, Face Hunter is not that hard, especially if you get your Death's Head Cultists. As you can see, everything else is pretty good for you. For the Mulligan, when you're going first, you're always gonna want to keep your Razor Boar, Dusk Piercer, Razor Fen Beastmaster, and depending on the matchup, Mankrik could be a keep, and also even a Raging Fellscreamer. When going second, still the Razor Boar would be your best bet, but apparently the Death Speaker becomes a lot more keepable too, even though I would definitely not keep it if I'm not curving out well into it. Razor Fen Beastmaster is still pretty good, Dusk Piercer is still strong, and you can even keep devouring Ectoplasm and even Curtis, especially if you're against a board-centric deck, like Elemental Shaman or Token Druid for instance. Vengeful Spirit could make a lot of sense, again if you're curving into it, and also if you already have a skull on your far left and an okay hand, you can also keep that. But don't get baited into keeping just skull and hoping for the best. It's just too slow for your case. This is another very good deck that I think is worth the craft, but keep in mind that these Inquisitors are way too overpowered, and I really don't know what Blizzard is thinking to release a card in that state and keep it for this long, so be prepared for an eventual nerf on the Inquisitors. For Demon Hunter, it's basically gonna be Deathrattle Demon Hunter, Lifesteal Demon Hunter, and there is also this big Demon Hunter too. But all in all, the best version for now is definitely the Deathrattle Demon Hunter. But there's actually also this hybrid Demon Hunter version that starts off with a Deathrattle package, and it also curves into an Ilginat with an Eldrachi Warblades, and a bunch of buffs. So you might want to try that version too. And finally, let's talk about Face Hunter again, because it's still pretty strong. There's really not much difference in the list from the last time I talked about it, aside from 2 wriggling horrors, which will definitely help you stick your dudes a lot easier. We also have 1 True Aim Crescent in here, which is also a pretty good card. And the real beauty of the True Aim Crescent is you can use it to double attack with the Trampling Rhino, as long as the opponent left you with such an opportunity. Other than that, everything is pretty standard in this version. We have the Kolkar Pack Runner, the Mancrick, the Piercing Shot, the Ringling Rifle, and obviously the Warsong, Barak, and Trampling Rhino. For the matchups, Priests are not gonna be great for you, Lifesteal Demon Hunter is gonna be able to heal a lot, Control Warrior and Rush Warrior are not gonna be great for you as well, and I do believe Rush Warrior is gonna be a lot worse for you than this, because I honestly cannot remember the last time I've lost against the Face Hunter with Rush Warrior. But yeah, everything else is pretty decent and the games are pretty fast too. For the mulligan, when you're going first, you're gonna want your Mancrick, Adorable Infestation, Interpid, and maybe even Wolpertinger, Demonic Companion, and Imprisoned Felmaw. Don't get baited into keeping Kolkar Pack Runner when you're going first, because you're simply not gonna have enough spells to cast with him before turn 4 basically. When going second however, Kolkar Pack Runner becomes a lot better for you, because you can pop off with it as soon as turn 2, with the coin and a 1 mana spell. Demon Companion still good, same as Interpid, Adorable, and even True Aim Crescent becomes a lot more keepable, but try not to waste it before you're getting close to your Rhino turns. Mancrick's still pretty good, and you can even keep Wriggling Horror, so maybe you can combo it with something like a Wolpertinger. Face Hunter is another deck that has been strong for quite a while now, and I do believe that's not gonna change anytime soon. So I'd say craft away, even though Face Hunter nowadays is quite more pricey than the versions we're used to from the past. There are quite a few variations of Face Hunter. In top 1000 Legend, some people even include stuff like Moonfang, which is kinda cool, but I'm not sure if it's worth the craft. But yeah, so far for Hunter, if you wanna be winning, you're probably better off going with Face. That's it for the 5 featured decks. Now let's quickly go over what are the other working archetypes for the classes I didn't mention today. Starting off with Mage, where no minion Mage is still at the top. But there's also Spell Damage Mage that is actually doing quite alright. Freeze Mage tried to be a thing, but it's still not good enough, so I guess it's gonna have to wait for a little more support from the new expansions. And also Ping Mage is doing quite terribly as well. For Paladin, we still have Nazat Paladin, Secret Paladin is still doing pretty strong, Libram Paladin is still quite okay, but the nerfs definitely toned down the win rates, so we're not seeing them that often anymore. Priest is a class I could have included in this top 5, but not many people enjoy playing Priest and nobody enjoys playing against Priest, and let's not forget that the skill cap for it is really high. But yeah, for Priest, Managary Priest is pretty strong, and there's also a version of Control Priest with the Giants still that is also doing quite alright. With Rogue, Miracle Rogue is one of the best out there, but you can also go for Secret and even Poison Rogue, but the sample size is too low to actually call it the best version of Rogue. And with Warlock, we still have Control Warlock at the top. Even though it's not doing that amazing, it's still the best version. Zoo Warlock is still not good enough, and Elite Warlock is just terrible. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be climbing with for the rest of this season or for the beginning of the new one. A like and a subscribe would really be appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.